Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the Amani Talks podcast. You're here with your host, Amani, on the podcast where we talk about our Christian-based topics and deepening our relationship with the Lord. It is March already, y'all. Where is 2025 going? February just came and went. I didn't even see February. It's so crazy, but let me just give you guys some updates. We officially have 10 women for our Christian girls trip to Bali. Oh my gosh, when I tell you guys how anxious I was about this trip, because I'm like, what if the women don't come? What if no one's available? I didn't know, and I just prayed about it, y'all. I wasn't gonna let anxiety and fear and a scarcity mindset, stop this trip. And I was almost on the brink of being I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to put myself out there and then it doesn't work out. And I just prayed. I prayed over every woman's seats. I prayed multiple times. I said, God, if you want this trip to come, you have to provide these women. You have to make the women come. And then that's how I know that this trip is from you and we can go on this trip. So every woman that signed up, I love you guys. I cannot wait to see you guys in Bali this summer. But just know your seat was prayed over. I'm just so happy that we're going to be there. They let me know that maybe we'll open up a few more slots if some more women want to join, but that's a maybe for right now. I will definitely keep you guys updated, but make sure that you are on the www.amaniwortham.com and subscribe to the emails that I send out weekly because that's how you get all the updates about the Bali trip. And also our Bible study that I started a few episodes ago. I said how I really wanted to join a community and create community. And I really wanted to do a Christian girl get together, Bible study, whatever that looks like. And we just had our first Bible study, but our second meetup 2 Saturdays ago, and we are having our second Bible study this upcoming Saturday. You also need to be on the website, so make sure you're on the amaniwortham.com website. Subscribe to those emails, sis, because that's how you get all these updates for whatever we're gonna do, the Bible study, the group chat, all of that stuff. It's really been amazing. I wasn't really sure what it was going to look like. But once again, you pray over it and you leave it in God's hands. One of my favorite verses is Proverbs 16:9. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And that's just a season that I feel like I'm in right now, to where I want these things. I want Christian friends. I want community. I want girls trips. I want things like that. And I'm planning it because these are my desires. And the Lord is directing my steps. I'm praying over it. And I'm just so excited for what God is doing in Atlanta and what he's doing for our Christian girls trip. Maybe I'll make this a yearly thing. Who knows? Who knows what will come of it? But I love you guys. Thank you. And yeah, let's get into the episode for today. So if you guys have been following me and following the podcast, you know that for a lot of these episodes, I really pull from my own life because I figure whatever I may be struggling with, other women are struggling with it too. And one of my struggles this week has just been feeling weary, feeling tired, feeling like you're on the cusp of just giving up. And I know that we all have those days, but I'm talking about specifically with our relationship with the Lord, feeling tired of praying for the same things, feeling tired of whatever season he has you in. Right now, God has me in a dependency season to where there is not much that I can say that I am doing for myself, which is a struggle for me, y'all, because as the first daughter of multiple siblings, I am so big on self-sufficiency. I'm so big on go out there and do it yourself because no one's going to hand anything to you. And there are a lot of things in life that the Lord is working on me with my sense of I'm doing it all myself and things are coming from Amani. He has me in a season of dependency. I will say that. And I'm not going to lie, it gets tiresome. Depending on God gets tiresome. When you have to pray for every single thing, when you're constantly on the brink of not having something that you need month after month, it gets tiresome to constantly not be able to do it yourself. That's a struggle of mine. That's always been a struggle of mine. And I think for a lot of single women, it's a struggle. I'll say for me specifically, when I talk about my struggle with the Lord and dependency, it's with my finances. And this is just being, completely transparent. When I was able to really plan my own way and I wasn't praying over anything, it was easy for me to make money because I knew, I have to hustle. Amani has to hustle to make money to pay my bills because no one else is going to, right? I can't depend on anybody else to pay my bills. But now that I'm a full-time content creator and God has called me in this season of, you're not going to have an overflow right now. I'm calling you to be dependent on me month to month. And it just gets irritating. Like, I'm just going to be honest, it gets irritating and you start to feel worn down. And when you have that experience month after month after month, it does start to wear you down mentally. It really does. So for our time together, I really want to talk about what we do as Christians when we feel worn down, when we feel like, God, like this month to month is not enough. You know, like I'm tired of like at the last minute being able to pay my rent. Like I'm tired of at the last minute being felt like I'm being pulled through. Like I want to be comfortable. Like I just want to rest. When you're not in your rest season and you're getting weary, what do you do? And seasons of weariness like this for me always remind me of Elijah in 1 Kings, how they're seeking his life. You know, Jezebel and her husband, the king, are killing all the prophets, and Elijah is running for his life constantly. 1 Kings 19 has the account of how Jezebel is seeking to once again kill Elijah. And then verse 3, it says, "And when he saw that, he arose and ran for his life and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he prayed that he might die and said, 'It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my father's.'" Now, by no means am I comparing my very first world problems to Elijah's, okay? This man had people killing his friends, killing the other prophets. He's the only one in the area. He's running for his life on several occasions, living in caves, okay? I am not saying that my problems are as big as Elijah's, but we can find ourselves in an Elijah season to where it's just you and God and you are depending on him. Maybe you're new in your walk, or you just returned back to your walk like I did and you don't have Christian friends near you every single day. Or you had a lifestyle that you were comfortable with. You didn't have to worry about anything and you had to give that up for your walk with God. And now you're really depending on him for your rent, for the money, for your food, for everything, for your car note. Maybe you just moved to a new city and now it's really just you by yourself and you're depending on God to provide those relationships, those friendships, and you're lonely and it's just you and God. I think there are a lot of times in a lot of different situations that we can find ourselves in something similar to an Elijah season. And it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating because as humans, we want to do things by ourselves. We want to feel like we are accomplishing something by ourselves. We want that self-made kind of accomplishment, that self-made feeling. And when God is like, nope, that's not the season that you're in. You are in your dependency season. It can be irritating, right? But the attitude I have learned to adopt in my Elijah season is just realizing that nothing that I have came from me anyway. There is no such thing as a self-made person. There definitely is not such thing as a self-made Christian. And when you release that self-made ideology, it's a lot easier to depend on the Lord because you know that you have to. You know that everything you have comes from him. And to continue on in chapter 19, verse 5, it says, "Then as he lay and slept under a broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him and said to him, 'Arise and eat.' Then he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again." So we see in Elijah's case, when he was weary, frustrated, he's like, God, I want to die, right? Like that's how miserable he was. We see how God provided exactly what he needed in that moment. Now, why does God wait until we are completely about to throw the towel in? Like, why did God wait until Elijah was like, God, I want to die? Like, why does it have to get that far? Why do I have to be at my lowest sometimes before it seems like God comes through? Because to be honest, that's where a lot of my frustration comes from. It comes from being like, God, like, if you're going to provide anyway, why do you wait until I'm at my lowest? Like, why do you wait until it's the first of the month and I'm like, oh, like, where's my rent coming from to give me my rent? Why, it's just like, why does God wait until we're at our lowest to give us exactly what we need? And I believe it's just like I was saying before, it's to strip us of our self-dependency. It's to strip us of our self-sufficiency. I think sometimes God lets us get to our lowest so that we can experience our lowest, so that we can see if God is not helping me, this is where I'll be. Sometimes if the journey is smooth and we're coasting through life, we feel like we have no need for God. We might pray a little less. We have no needs. It's like, well, what am I praying for? I don't really need anything right now. That's the attitude that a lot of us might adopt. And that's why I truly believe that a lot of Christians will never be rich. Because when you have that money, we act funny. When we got that money, we act like we don't need nobody. Money is the root of our feeling like we have self-sufficiency. If things are always smooth sailing for us, it is so easy to slide right into pride. It's so easy to feel like, oh, life is going great because I'm so great, because I'm doing things well. I am the one that is producing this comfort in my life. It's very easy for us to slip into that. And I think about David. It talks about in 1 Chronicles 20 how there are some battles that were won by the Israelites while David was king. And it's big battles. I mean, they're literally slaying giants. Philistine giants are getting killed by the Israelites. And so I can imagine that David is probably feeling himself. So in chapter 21 of 1 Chronicles, we see how David holds a census for the Israelites. And Joab, his second in command, is like, why do you need to know these things? Like he says in verse 3, may the Lord make his people 100 times more than they are. But my Lord the king, are they not all my Lord's servants? Why then does my Lord require this thing? Why should he be a cause of guilt in Israel? But David still wanted that census done. And I'm thinking, like, why is it a sin for David to number the Israelites? And I researched it and I saw how this was a prideful move. By numbering his army and figuring out how many people he had fighting these battles was a sign of self-sufficiency, right? Because why would you need to know that if the Lord is the one conquering these battles for you? Why do you need to know the number of people that you have fighting if the Lord goes before you anyway? It didn't matter if you had 3 million or 300. The Lord's going to fight your battles anyway. It was him feeling strong. It was him feeling mighty. It was him feeling self-sufficient. Like it's not the Lord fighting the battles. It's not because of the Lord that I'm winning these battles. It's because we have this huge army. It was a show of pride. That's what was going on. And that example is exactly why the Lord may have you in a season of no overflow. The Lord may have you in a season of I'm only giving you enough to get day by day, week by week, month by month. You have to depend on me for everything that you have, because as soon as we get comfortable with the number in our bank account, the number of friends that we have, the number of people showing up to our events, as soon as we get comfortable with the number, we stop depending on God. We stop believing and understanding it's because of the Lord that I have this. And that's exactly why Jesus said it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inherit the kingdom of heaven. Because when you got that number in your bank account, you thinking it's from you. You're feeling so self-sufficient. You're feeling so proud. And the Lord needs you on your knees praying. He needs you dependent on him. And that's just the season that I'm in. And it can be frustrating. It can be tiring. But to see the Lord always come through, sometimes we need to be at our last and see the Lord come through for us to even realize that it's the Lord. Sometimes we're so hard-headed that we have to be at our lowest. We have to darn near see a miracle. Like we have to be like, that was God because I had 0 in the bank and now I got this. Sometimes we have to be at our lowest for us to even understand and really get it through our heads that no, that was not me. It's impossible that was me. It was God. In a perfect world, we will always attribute all of our success, all of our money, all of our good things that happen in our lives. We will always say, God did that. But sometimes when we accumulate too much, we forget about God. And that's exactly why when the Israelites were coming from Egypt to the promised land and God was giving them manna to eat, like literally giving them food from the sky, he said, gather as much manna as you need for the day, no more than what you need for that day. And tomorrow I will give you what you need for tomorrow. He made the manna spoil every single day. So if anyone was hard-headed and tried to grab more than what they needed for the day, it would spoil anyway. God needed the Israelites dependent on him day by day. And that's how he needs us sometimes. And that's the season that I'm in right now. And this is the attitude that I'm trying to adopt, understanding why the Lord has me in this season. Because if we go through a season that the Lord needs us in, but we don't learn anything from it, we'll probably never get out of that season. Sometimes we're in these dependency seasons, in these Elijah seasons, because the Lord is trying to tell us something. He's trying to break a bad habit. He's trying to break that pride, that self-dependency, that self-sufficiency, that want of, oh, I want to be self-made. I want to tell people that I did it. He knows what's in our hearts. He has to break us of that. So while the Lord has me in my dependency season, what am I doing when I'm not feeling great, when I'm feeling frustrated? You know what? One thing that I do that is really helpful for me, and I don't know if it's helpful for everybody, but it definitely gets me. I stay in church as often as I can. especially when I'm going through it. If my church has a Monday night Bible study, and then my discipleship class is on Tuesday, and then another church has a Wednesday night, and then another church is going to have some kind of young adult Saturday, I am going to be in as many church events as possible. Whatever my church does, I am there. And if my church does not have something on a random Thursday night or Friday night, I'm going to another church. I keep myself in church because that reminds me of what I'm here to do. Sometimes we can get caught up in not having enough because we're focused on the wrong thing anyway. When you know that your time on earth is to serve, to worship and praise the Lord, and to expand the kingdom, sometimes when we are too far outside of that and we're idolizing our jobs and we're idolizing our hopes and our dreams a little too much, the Lord may snatch us back. And when I'm forcing myself to be in church and I see this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, worshiping, learning, expanding the kingdom, it kind of makes all those other things seem so minuscule. It kind of makes all the other things seem like, well, you know what? God can take those things away because I truly don't need them. It gets me in the right headspace of focus. Church allows me to focus. So I force myself to be a part of any little thing that my church has. Amani is there. I'm going to show up every single time. And something I recently heard another pastor say, I can't remember who it was. I was just listening to a sermon. He said that when you are going through a tough season and you refuse to show up in church, and this is why I'm so big on, you might be somewhere and you need to kind of just be in your living room watching a Sunday morning service, or maybe you're traveling, whatever the case may be. Is it okay to watch or to listen to a sermon on Sunday mornings if you can't make it to church? Okay, but don't let that be a habit, because people need to see you. You need to understand that when you're going through a season and people still see you showing up, you don't understand how that may be encouraging to the next person. We are all the body. You can't withdraw or be like, oh, I'm going through a tough time, so, I can't show up to church. Like, I'm going through a tough time, so I just want to stay in bed. You can't do that. You literally cannot do that. It's not all about you. And that's something that really helps me put things into perspective when I'm going through a tough season too, is realizing it's not all about me. Do I understand how many other people are going through a tough season too? And when they see me withdraw because I'm going through my Elijah season, they might think, okay, I can withdraw too. If that's what we're doing, I can withdraw too. No, when people see me still showing up to every single event I have at my church with a smile on my face, and I'm telling them, I need prayer for this, y'all. I need prayer for this, y'all. So they know what's going on, but they still see me showing up. That may encourage the next person to show up during their struggle season too. We can't withdraw when we are going through our struggle season. There's no fruit in that. There is no fruit in withdrawing from the body because you're going through something tough. You need to show up anyway. The Lord commands you to not forsake the assembly of the saints. Some of y'all think it's just a suggestion that y'all show up to church. Some of y'all think it's just a friendly reminder. No, it is a commandment that you are in a body, that you are physically showing up to church. Just watching it Sunday mornings is not good enough. It's not. You need to be there physically when you are struggling, when you can see other people struggling, when you can be of encouragement, when you can pray for people. How can people pray for you if they don't know what you're going through? You need to show up in those times. So I force myself to show up to church. Watching it and listening to it online is not good enough. I force myself to get up, get dressed, and go to church. And it's always the times that you feel the worst, when you are really in your struggle, that you show up to church and it blesses you. Like, you feel better, you feel lighter. It's a reset, because that's exactly where the devil wants a struggling Christian, by themselves. The devil wants you to struggle by yourself. When he attempts to isolate you and you go right along with it, that's exactly where he wants you, because you're just going to struggle 10 times worse. I would much rather be in a physical space where people know what's going on with me and are praying for me and can help me, than me just be by myself and struggling with it and thinking, oh my gosh, like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'm just going to stay in bed. Like, I can't afford that. I can't afford to wallow by myself. I can't afford to struggle by myself. That's exactly where the temptation creeps in. That's exactly where that anxiety creeps in, that self-loathing. that depression. He wants you by yourself so all those things can sneak into your life. When you force yourself to still serve, when you force yourself to still show up, when you force yourself to be there for other people, when you need other people there for you, that's when you'll see the fruit. That's where you get that reset. That's where you get that replenishment. Us as Christians, we cannot afford to struggle by ourselves. I force myself to show up to every single thing that I can because it helps, y'all. It really does. It really helps. Another thing I like to do is just go through my journals and look at all the other times that I've struggled or been praying for something and to see how the Lord answered those prayers. And that just cheers me up because when I look back and I see, oh, like I was struggling with this same thing or struggling with something different in October of 2024. And then I write down how the Lord answered that prayer, or how the Lord got me through that struggle, or when he showed up right on time, right before I threw in the towel. It encourages me. It cheers me up. It lets me know this is not an isolated incident that I'm struggling with. This is not something new. And when you realize that it may just be some kind of spiritual attack and you understand that, and then you say, oh, pray. I need to pray. I need to tell other people about this so that they can pray this away with me. And once we get a good understanding of the struggle that we may be going through, why we may be going through it, what the Lord is trying to tell us, and what we need to be doing in the meantime, which is still showing up, still serving, still praying, reminding ourselves of all the other times that the Lord came through for us. When we're doing that, that's how we're getting through this season. That's how this season is fruitful. That's how we are learning and applying it to the next time. You don't want to keep learning the same lessons over and over again because you didn't stop, really understand, and really learn. All of our goals should always be to grow in Christ, not to keep repeating the same seasons, the same mistakes, the same lessons. You want to grow. You want to get past that. You want to apply it to the next time. So I just really want to encourage you all, when you're going through an Elijah season, a desperate season, a season to where God has you on your knees praying every single day, dependent on him to pay your bills, dependent on him to get you through whatever you're going through right now. I just encourage you to not give up. Because yes, it's frustrating, it's irritating while the Lord is pruning you, maybe purging some of your bad habits. It is hard to let go of self-sufficiency. It is hard to take your hand off the wheel. It is hard, y'all. That's something that we might all struggle with, I'm sure. But learn from this season that the Lord has you in. Don't let it pass you by. Don't let this struggle be for nothing. I would hate to struggle and it be for nothing. Like, that sounds insane. The Lord loves you. He will always provide for you. He will always come right on time. Just trust in his timing, trust in exactly what he's doing, and learn from every season that he has you in. All right, I will talk to you guys next time, and I'll see you later. Like I said, make sure you're on the Amani Wortham website so that you can get all of the meetups in Atlanta and all the things that we'll be doing in the community that we are building. And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys later. Bye.